I gained 37 pounds for this role. True fact. Thank you.
The Shire. How delicious the morning is in this part of the world. The air is stuffed with comfort. It's as if nothing exciting has happened here for ages, all green and still. Rather like the inside of one of those fresh eggs that you're eating, don't you think?
Oh, well, I wouldn't know. It's hard to look at a place from the outside when you live on the inside. But then you're a stranger here. Welcome.
I am no stranger, unless, of course, I choose to be.
Oh, yes. Well, how do you do, sir?
Magnificently. But at the moment, I am searching for someone to share a great adventure. A stupendous adventure that I am arranging. And it's so difficult to find anyone.
You, sir, are in the neighborhood of hobbits.
Hobbit? Hobbit? What is a hobbit?
We're just plain folk, have no use for adventures. Nasty, uncomfortable things. Adventures make you late for dinner. Can't think what anyone sees in them. You might try across the hill or over the water.
You should be ashamed of yourself, Bilbo Baggins.
That's my name. How did you...
You know my name, too, yet you do not know that I belong to it. I am Gandalf, and Gandalf is me. To think I live to be Good Morning by Belladonna Took's son, as if I was selling buttons at the door.
Gandalf? Gandalf? Good gracious. Not the wandering wizard who used to tell such wonderful tales at parties about dragons and giants and goblins.
The very same, dear boy.
And the rescue of princesses. And the unexpected luck of widows' sons. Oh, and the fireworks. I remember those old Grandpa Took used to send them up on Midsummer's Eve. Up they rose like giant lilies and snapdragons. And hung in the twilight all evening, falling at last like silver and gold rain. Dear me, are you the same Gandalf who led so many of our quiet lads and lasses off on mad adventures? Bless me, life used to be quite you used to upset things quite badly in these parts. I beg your pardon, but I had no idea you were still in business.
Where else should I be? Well, for your grandfather Took's sake, as well as for the sake of your poor mother Belladonna, I shall give you what you asked for.
But I haven't asked for anything.
Yes, you have. My pardon. I give it to you. In fact, I shall be kind enough to send you on an adventure. Very good for you, and profitable too, if you live through it.
My name is Kathy Welch, and I directed the Hobbit, Green Tea's Hobbit, that took place a month ago. When did it take place? That was a while ago now. Co-founded it with my husband, Rick Coleman. Green Tea Productions back in, actually it was back in 99 now. It's been a while. And I'm the artistic director. He handles the management business end of things.
And what made you want to start it?
My background is actually in Asian theater, and I'm originally from the Twin Cities area and went away to do graduate school and studies and other adventures. And when it came time for us to move on, we made a real deliberate choice to come back to the Twin Cities because it's such a great theater town, as well as we had family here. And our opportunities were very limited to utilize my Asian theater background that I'd been studying traditional Asian theater forms at the University of Hawaii, and decided that, well, why don't we go ahead and use that and create our own theater, because that sort of work wasn't really being done too much in the cities at the time. So started our own production company.
So a lot of American theater is really based on character development, getting inside of the heads of the characters, and it seems like that the Asian theater styles are so grounded in their movements. Can you give me a little bit of the history behind them?
Sure. It of course varies from form to form, but many of them come from a dance background. So kabuki, for example, in its very earliest years, was not so much a theater form as a dance form, and so that's where the movement base came from. And as it developed and there were more dramatic elements added to it, it became more of a story, and the actors had to learn to use their voices more and incorporate more storytelling, more theatrical storytelling. They continued to train in the movement forms and the dance forms. So a kabuki actor now can be 70 years old and have been on the stage for 65 years of his life, and he still trains constantly in the dance forms, and will sneak off away from the theater once a day to work with their teachers on the dance. So the dance aspect of it in a lot of different Asian forms is very important, and it translates into even a scene that we would think is very just a dramatic acting scene. The movement is very specific and very round and choreographed looking. So
Now, what about The Hobbit made you think that layering these different kind of styles would really work with it?
We were looking specifically for a theater piece to kind of highlight some different types of theater forms. We were really interested in being able to bring different forms together and seeing them side by side to kind of point out the differences and see how they could inform one another from the audience's perspective. So we were thinking through different types of plays that might give us that opportunity. And hit upon The Hobbit. The Hobbit was kind of on everyone's minds anyway because of the Peter Jackson movie that's coming out in a few weeks. And thought that this would be a really fun opportunity because each of the different races of Middle-earth could be created through these different theater forms. And within the story, there are different races, there are different cultures, so it makes sense that they would have a different style of performance, and so that was the thought. The dwarves are kabuki style. They're all sort of the rough male kabuki character. The elves, we went with flamenco, getting a little bit away from the Asian forms and bringing in Spanish flamenco. And we differentiated the high elves and the wood elves. Had a slightly different flavor to the type of flamenco that they used. One was more masculine and bullfighter, and the other one was a little bit more softer, more feminine. Gandalf was used. We used the Beijing opera style. He was a stock character in Beijing opera is a scholar, and so that's the movement style we used for that. What else did we have? Oh, the trolls. We went with sumo wrestling for the trolls, and then the Gollum. Gollum was Butoh style, which is a Japanese dance form. It's sort of a postmodern form that became popular like in the 1960s as a reaction against actually the more traditional forms, the kabuki and the no forms. And it's very sort of a disjointed And oftentimes the actors, the performers will use the base white makeup that the kabuki actors wear without any of the detailing. So it's just a very stark canvas of makeup. And the movement, sometimes it's referred to as a dance of the dead. So the movement is very stark and angular and emphasizes different parts of the body and can look very creepy. And so we thought that was appropriate for Gollum, and we divided Gollum into 3 different actors, and there was one who spoke and the other 2 who just moved, and it sort of added to that creepiness and him constantly talking to himself as in the as 3 people or talks about we, my precious, that sort of thing. I thought that would work really well.
Whom have we the pleasure of meeting?
I am Mr. Bilbo Baggins, a hobbit. I've lost the dwarves and the wizard, and I don't know where I am, but then I don't want to know where I am. The only thing I want to know is how to get out of here.
Suppose we sits and chats with it a bit, my precious. Oh, Baggins is. Perhaps it likes riddles, it does it?
You mean me?
Yes!
I'd love to, but I'm expected somewhere else. I hope so. If you just kindly direct me to the nearest exit.
Stop! Oh, first a riddle, yes?
All right. If you insist.
Then we did use Suzuki actor training for the goblins, and Suzuki uses a lot of very strong stamping, and it's developed in order to help actors build up a base, a lower level strength and contact with the ground. And so there's a lot of stamping and very almost militaristic. And so the goblins, or the orcs, were using Suzuki method. And was that it? Of course, Beorn.
A skin changer. Sometimes he is the man that you met, and sometimes he is a great bear. Some say he is a bear descended from the great and ancient mountain bears. Others say he is a man descended from the first men who lived here. I cannot say, but he is not the sort of person to annoy.
I should say not.
No theater, if you've ever seen it, is very slowed down, slowed to the point where the footsteps become very, very important and very much a focus of the audience as well as the actor. And every little movement is really exaggerated in terms of the meaning it's given, because it's so slowed down and so sparse and so carefully choreographed. We actually played a little bit with some humor involved with the slowness of that character, so that was fun.
What did you go near them for?
We did not mean to. They surprised us at night at a pass at which we had to cross. It is a long tale.
Then I suppose you better come inside and tell me some of it. If it won't take all day.
Okay, so what will occur at the very beginning of this thing? We'll be going to a blackout, and we're going to just hear Gollum hissing and sputtering and being all Gollum-y. And then we're going to hear the sound of the rain dropping on stone. But we are going to hear that. And then Gandalf will enter and orchestrate the movement of the benches and such.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
benches.
And then people who aren't here right now, the human army folks, will arrange the benches so that there's a bench over there. Then Bilbo, you'll
And I enter from.
up left. And just kind of going about your business.
Okay, will all this be here? The navigator?
That'll all get moved there by the. They'll come up with it. So black. Go away. No, go away.
Sorry, I wasn't sure where we were at.
I will call out your entrance and all the blackouts. So, blackout. All noises of rain. Half-light comes up. Gandalf, enter.
You're kind of conducting the people to come in and move their benches around. There'll be some pretty music.
Come
And they've
down.
gone away. Yep. And once they're gone,
Ah, the Schneider. How delicious the morning is in this part of the world. The air is stuffed with comfort. It's as if nothing exciting has happened here for ages. The air all green and still, rather like the inside of one of those fresh eggs that you're eating. Don't you think?
you need to come in. Wait, I'm sorry.
Wait,
Well, he's conducting.
All green and still, rather like the inside one of those fresh eggs that you're about to eat, don't you think?
No. Then it's hard to look at the place from the outside when you live in the inside. But then you're a stranger here. Welcome.
I am no stranger, unless, of course, I choose to be.
Oh, yes. Well, how do you do, sir?
Magnificently, of course. But at the moment, I am looking for someone to share a great adventure. A stupendous adventure that I'm arranging. But it is so difficult to find anyone these days to share an adventure.
My name is Carrie Forster, and I play Bilbo Baggins.
Have you ever done The Hobbit before?
Once,
What role did you play?
Thorin Oakenshield.
So
And it was right before this one, so they were back to back.
how
I
close were
couldn't
they?
resist. The other one ended in, see, what is it now? The other one ended about 3 weeks before the current one began rehearsal. So, yeah, it was pretty close.
So you jumped from one Middle-earth to a completely different one.
Yes. Well, the same Middle-earth, different point of view. But I'd never done that before. I've never done the same play twice, let alone back-to-back, and different characters.
So having just done it, what made you jump into a second one so quickly?
I thought it would be interesting to be Bilbo and to see the show, and from that point of view. And it's hard to resist Bilbo Baggins. I love the character. Hobbits. One audience member after the show said something along the lines of hobbits represent the middle class. Okay, so they obviously had an entire way of looking at the show, and I thought about it, and I see his point. They are lovers of creature comforts and everything in its place and predictability. But, at least in Bilbo, I don't know how many other hobbits share this, he has this spirit, this yearning for something more. There's something missing, and that makes him susceptible to being led off on adventures. So I like the combination. I'm the same way. I presume most people are. We love our creature comforts, but we have restless spirits. I think most people do. And we differ in to what degree we repress them. But we want more. There's always something missing. And some of us will go off on the adventures, and others just dream about them. Bilbo went out and went for it.
Hear that? It's almost dinner time. Dragon's getting hungry for some nice roast burglar.
Suppose we ask our burglar expert to give us his ideas and suggestions.
Oh, first off, I'd like some information about the dragon and the treasure, where it comes from, who it belongs to, and so on.
Oh, very well.
I'd also like to know about risks, out-of-pocket expenses, time required, and wages, etc.
Oh, he's just wondering his chances of coming back alive and how much gold he'll get.
His chances are as good as ours. The circumstances are briefly these. Long ago, when my grandfather was king, the dwarves settled here, beneath the lonely mountain. Those were the good old days. They made beautiful things just for the fun of it, not to sell, as we do now. And when they needed more gold, or emeralds, or rubies, they just dug them out of the mountain. There was no end to the supply. But that brought the dragons. Good times always bring dragons. History illustrates.
Be brief, won't you?
Very well. There was an especially wicked dragon called Sm. His name seems to stick in my throat. Smog. Yes. Curse him.
Heidi Berg, Thorin Oakenshield.
Thank you very much. Now, would you describe yourself as a green tea alum, veteran?
Yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid a long time ago.
What keeps bringing you back to Green Tea Productions?
I really have a strong attachment to Kathy's passion for storytelling. Anytime you have an opportunity to use physicality to enhance the storytelling as opposed to as its own story, you've kind of got me already. But Kathy's just got a really fascinating way of working with the performer to find that tie through, and that's huge for me. The first show I did with her was, I was an idiot. I didn't know what I was doing. I walked in, I was like, Kabuki! Oh, what's Kabuki? I have no idea. And stumbled into this great experience I think we were in Bloomington in some, I don't know, civic center kind of place. Maybe it was a junior high. I don't even remember anymore, but had a great time on that production and then just crossed my fingers and hoped she would work with me again. It's working out okay so far.
Hold on, a magnificent coat of mail. Yes, the elf's mail mithril, with a belt of pearls and crystals.
How about you, Thorin?
Above all, I seek the Arkenstone. For the Arkenstone of my father is worth more than a river of gold in itself, and to me is beyond price. That stone of all the treasure I name unto myself, and I will be avenged on anyone who finds it and who holds it.
Thorin was very much a character. He's a jerk, he's big, he's brash, he's kind of, well, he's brave, and yet he's kind of got this, but you go first, cowardly bend to him. He's a lot of things that I felt as a sort of rabid Tolkien fan really tied to. I felt like it was a jump to take Thorin and make him a female. And then, of course, there's the other big jump to put that into the kabuki style. So for me, in this instance, it was so important to work with the character and see how the movement informed those character choices, as opposed to kind of the other way around, which was great fun because, again, with the kind of late-minute discoveries of the, now Thorin's going to get really pompous and suddenly he sounds very kabuki. You're like, wait, that was probably on purpose.
Those were the happy days. Oh, they made beautiful things just for the fun of it. Not to sell as we do now. And when they needed more gold or emeralds or rubies, they just dug them out of the mountain. There was no end to the supply. But that brought the dragon! The times always bring dragons! History illustrates!
Be brief, why don't you?
Very well.
So I had Thorin and then kind of came to the kabuki through that lens in this case. So for me, Kathy's great to work with because she lets you. However you get there, she's there to support you getting there. And they're intrinsic. I mean, they're tied together. You need it all. So you need somebody that's patient and yet terrifying. I don't ever want to let her down. So that's a big driving force for me.
Earlier, you were talking about the Western style of acting that's very much inside out, and Asian style being very much outside in. What I like to do is find out what happens with green tea performances when you're working both ways. And I work as a director. I work very much on the outside in. I bring my background in Asian theater expertise to that, and then hire the very best actors I can who are themselves good at the other aspect. And then so they're working on the inside. I'm working on the outside, and then interesting things happen when they meet.
Pardon me, but I'd like to offer you this. The Arkenstone of Frame. It will aid you in your bargaining.
How is this yours to give?
Well, it isn't exactly, but I am willing to let it stand against my claim to the treasure, which was to be my payment for my services as a burglar.
You miserable hobbit! You undersized burglar! I wish I had Gandalf here! Carve him for the choice you own! Throw you to the rocks!
Stay! Here is Gandalf, and none too soon, it appears. Lie.
Well done, Mr. Baggins.
Well done, Mr. Baggins. There's always something more to you than anyone expects. And if you don't like my burglar, please don't
So let's
damage
have
it.
this happen a little further down. You guys can go for the
And if you don't like my burglar, please don't damage it. Take your hands.
Put him down.
Put him down.
My name's Ki-sung Ri, and I play the role of Gandalf in Green Tea's The Hobbit.
What brought you back to this one? Was it working with Green Tea, or was it the chance to do The Hobbit?
It was a little bit of both. I know I'm repeating myself, but you will never know. Let's see. It was the workshops that Kathy put up. I was interested in because it covered a whole range of different things that I was interested in, as well as the fact that I auditioned for Trojan Women, but I couldn't do it for scheduling reasons. I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to audition for The Hobbit, but I always loved the book as well. So as a bit of a kind of a lark, I auditioned for it and was hoping for whatever, actually, just whatever, really. But ended up with Gandalf. And I actually also played the physical role of Smaug, the head of Smaug. So that was heavy. You are Beowulf, friend to the animals in the forest.
What do you want?
Well, we've lost our luggage and almost lost our way, and in rather in need of some help, or at least advice. I say we had a bad time with some goblins in the mountains.
Goblins? Oh, so you've been having trouble with them, have you?
Oh, yes.
I hate goblins. What did you go near them for?
Well, we didn't mean to. They surprised us at a pass which we had to cross at night.
At night in the pass?
Oh, at night in the pass which we... Wait.
That's right.
They... which we had to... It is a long tale.
I wanted to see if it would work. I thought one of two things. This is either going to be really lame or it's going to be really special. I felt it had to go to one extreme or the other. And I was delighted, at least from my point of view, is that it worked. In the midst, and I got that from many, many audience members who had also not seen anything like it before. And they would say things like, I didn't know what to expect. It was strange, but somehow the story came through in a certain way even stronger because of the exotic method of telling it. And the storyline, the emotions came through all of that, somehow enhanced by the exotic theatrical styles. And that was wonderful to hear, but that's how I experienced it as well. I was amazed at how much I felt doing the character in spite of all these stylized movements, the stylized vocalizations that many of the characters had. It worked. And maybe that's why those theatrical styles have been around for so long and they've survived. Go away, you horrible eyes.
Just go away from me, eyes.
Keep away from me, eyes. I know where I am, right?
I wonder what happened to
I wonder what happened to the dwarves. I hope the goblins didn't get them.
Do you have any cuts here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No cuts.
Now, the two characters of Bilbo and Gandalf, there seems to be just such a deep connection between the two of them. How did you find it playing against somebody from the Beijing Opera?
Between two actors, the connection happens with the eyes, for me. I think it's probably pretty universal. And all Keyshawn and I had to do was lock eyes, and everything else is secondary or even tertiary, the movement styles. And to Bilbo, Gandalf represents everything we just talked about, all the adventure and the possibilities, the strangeness, the danger, the magic. And so the moment he sees Gandalf in his home, there's that mixture of fear and yearning. Just both of them come up simultaneously.
You asked me to find a 14th man for your expedition, and I choose Mr. Baggins here.
What? If you think I'm gonna
But alas, I have made a sad mistake. This can't be the chap. I was looking for a member of the Took family. Imagine I mistook him for a Took.
But I am a Took.
Really? The blood must have thinned then.
Why, my great uncle Bull Roarer Took.
Yes, but we're talking about you.
I said to myself, why, here is a hobbit that looks beyond his next cup of tea. But alas, he is but an ordinary run-of-the-shire hobbit. When an adventure knocks, he locks the door and hides under the bed.
Really, this is too much.
I am sorry, dwarf, but you must go back to shoveling hole. The hobbit is too afraid to go. And you can't set out with 13. That's so unlucky.
Sir! If it's what it took to uphold the honor of the Took family, I would cross mountains and deserts and fight 100 dragons. Why, I wouldn't it!
Mr. Baggins is with us.
Why did you say that, Bilbo? You are such a fool. So it didn't make any difference how he was moving or how he used his voice. That didn't make any difference. This is Gandalf, and this is what he means to me, Bilbo.
Negotiating with the Hobbit was not too hard. It was interesting to kind of wheedle him and then to kind of cajole him and then a little bit of a tricking, like just to see where he's at, but not necessarily pulling the wool over his eyes. But really appealing to his pride was probably the biggest thing. His honor, his sense of pride, his sense of decency, really. Which I don't think is much of a negotiation for me, as much more of a, I knew it was there, but it was nice to hear it from him. So that revelation publicly is always nice. Thorin was tricky because of the fact that we're partners, and he's also the curmudgeon, the very stubborn one, the one that you have to really push him for him to understand rather than like needle him about it. It's the idea of the heavy hand with Thorin in many ways, I feel like. So, in a sense, his was not much of a negotiation. It's more like a sledgehammer, hammering away.
Gandalf.
Well, describe your relationships between Bilbo and Thorin and Gandalf.
Well, it's funny because I think that dwarves generally don't have a whole lot of patience for wizards, and they are hardly aware that hobbits exist. So at the very beginning, you're at kind of this bad spot as far as that relationship goes. Gandalf and Thorin have come together. Gandalf has some information. Thorin is now of an age where he can start to look towards making this big journey. And so they have a plan already. They have a sort of relationship. There's distrust there because magic is still something that Thorin's not real excited about. But there's a respect and okay, you've come this far with me. We're gonna go this road together.
A fine pickle you left your burglar in, Thorin.
And just where were you, if I might ask?
Looking ahead.
And what brought you back?
Looking behind.
Exactly! Could you be more plain?
I went ahead to spy out the road. It would soon become much more dangerous. I had not gone very far when I met some elf friends. They were hurrying along in fear of trolls. I had a feeling that I was needed here, and so I hurried back, and now you know.
We thank you.
Bilbo, on the other hand, at the beginning, he's just kind of there. He's annoying. He's whiny. He's and again, character, not actor. He's all these horrible, horrible things that to Thorin are just appalling. Like, no, why do I have to deal with, why do I have to drag you along? You're eating my food. You're just taking up space. You're slow. You're smaller than us. You need even a tinier horse. Oh, and then look, the horses are gone. Like, this is not going well. But there are very key moments through the journey where you learn more about both Gandalf and Bilbo, and the genuine moments that happen in there. The moment at the very end of the play after all of the craziness has ensued, after the battle of the five armies and everything, in that moment with Bilbo and Thorin, I think is entirely honest. And it is that moment of, okay, we are so totally different, and I don't ever want to take a road trip with you again, but dude, I stand for you. We're cool. We're cool? Okay.
Farewell, good thief.
Since I leave now all gold and silver, and go where it is of little worth, I wish to part in friendship from you. And I would take back my words and deeds before the battle.
Farewell, King Under the Mountain. It is a bitter adventure if it must end so, and not a mountain of gold can amend it. Yet I'm glad I've shared in your peril. It is more than any Baggins deserves.
No. There is more in you of good than you know. Some wisdom and some courage blended in measure. If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world.
We asked Heidi Thorin about this. There was a little bit of talk that we picked up during rehearsals of something called no legs. Could you give us your definition of that?
No legs. Well,
wow, I hadn't heard this phrase before, but it immediately makes sense to me.
Well, I think they're a bunch of crybabies.
I think it's important when you're talking about Eastern types of movement that you understand one kind of fundamental thing, is that all of the movement styles begin with something called lowered koshi, which is to take kind of your pelvis and drop it straight down. Well, you got your legs in the way, so they need to step a little bit aside and you need to bend your knees. And that's how you spend the entire time you're on stage.
We did a collaboration with Theater Unbound in Medea, a no cycle, which is a no-based performance. And in order to start building some of the strength that the actors need to be able to maintain that slow tempo and connection to the ground, we would do exercises where the actors were asked to very slowly, as slowly as they can, step forward on one foot and then begin basically a plie, only with their knees straight forward, very, very slowly, and then not to the point where they're kneeling on the ground, but just above kneeling on the ground, and then turn around and stand back up very slowly. And it's, as you can imagine, it's grueling, especially when you try to, do it for an extended period of time.
All this is a fancy way of saying it's exhausting. It's exhausting. You're pooped after just a couple of minutes doing this, and then if you have a particularly long journey to take, what happens to your legs after you're doing that for a while is they turn into jello and they just sort of start to shake.
Heidi and I tend to take it even slower than everyone else and Kathy always says, do as many as you can, as many as you feel comfortable, and then one more. Heidi and I keep going, and when we run out of room to go forward, then we stop, usually.
But it really does help quickly build those muscles and help them be able to get through a performance. So we've incorporated that into sort of our green tea warm-ups now in order to get people all, strong, and it's sort of our boot camp, and some of the actors talk about it as no legs. Yeah.
Make sure you're standing up straight all the way down. Try not to lean forward back. 20 down, 20 up. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Standard interview question. What style did other people get to do that you looked at and said, oh, I'd like to give that a shot?
Flamenco.
My name is Colette Ilardi.
What to you is flamenco?
To me, it's a lifestyle. To me, it's my art. To me, it's what I do all the time and what I think about all the time. So personally, it's really my motivator. Back in the golden age of Spain, a lot of different cultures gathered together in the country. So we had travelers from India coming all the way over, and when they crossed the continents, they brought along with them their music and their rhythm and their tonal qualities of music. There's some Jewish influence in there that maybe was picked up in North Africa, North African Moorish influence of the pounding rhythms and the circular rhythms that just keep going and building power. I think that comes from North Africa. So all these influences came together. The Gypsies took it, and along with the Spaniards in Spain, mixed it up and made it to the art form that we see today. It's taken a life of its own. And the way things are changing these days, I mean, there's so many other influences now being wrapped up into it. Like hip hop and tango from Argentina is kind of wrapped up in some of the musical stylings, and dances from different areas are wrapping in different different movement styles and things. So like I say, it's a really, really rich traditional art form.
How do you think that flamenco is going to either mesh, work with, or stand apart from the different kind of traditions that are going on here?
Well, I think it'll mesh theatrically, and I know it'll be a smooth show overall. I imagine that the flamenco section might pop a little bit if we use some percussive elements and a stronger physicality of the characters. Like the elves are really, really, really fiery and impassioned about themselves and their mission. But I think theatrically it'll mesh so well. Green Tea does such a good job of researching what they do, and the traditional elements that they present are very well studied, and I really like that respect to the art and to the traditions. And Kathy seems to be applying that to flamenco too, even though that's not her art form. She's having the actors learn. I've taught a basic class, and I'm going to keep training them on the physicality and on the flamenco approach to dance. I think it's gonna mesh, like I say, smoothly, but I think the flamenco part hopefully will be a fun fiesta, a fun thing that stands out in the journey of the story.
I am David Schneider, and I was the violence choreographer for The Hobbit, as well as playing multiple roles within the show.
As opposed to different shows where a lot of the combat tries to be very realistic, this seemed to have a much more of a dance quality to it, at least from watching from the outside.
Definitely.
I mean, was that something that you guys were really going for, or did you discover that later on?
No, that was something that, since I've gotten to work with Kathy a couple of times, Asian theater is there's so much stylization involved in it that we knew that we wanted to do that from the start. So we wanted to use kabuki. We wanted to use the Suzuki techniques. We wanted to use Chinese opera. We wanted to incorporate all of those things in order to create a picture that would look realistic enough and would signify a battle scene, but also maintain those elements of the individual styles of movement and really accentuate the whole thing so that it all kind of is brought together in one giant mass.
Shall we try both of those sections together? Let's try. Okay, ready? And go. I'm sorry. My fault. Sorry. Wow, whatever happened?
The slow motion intro into the Battle of Five Armies, where did you come up with that idea?
That was after workshopping. I think we were doing some buto, and we did an exercise where we just walked across the studio floor towards the mirror in slow motion. So seeing, I don't know, it was probably 8 to 12 people all just walking in slow motion across there. It's a very impressive visual to watch. And so I wanted to incorporate that into the show somehow, and that seemed the most appropriate spot. It was a nice opening and transition from something that was confrontational between people, and then the enemy approaches, and there's that realization that everything has to change. We have to cooperate as this mass is coming in, and everyone just has to focus on the immediate task at hand. So it just seemed like a nice way to transfer from one to the other.
And go.
Bilbo Baggins. Alive and well. I'm glad.
I mean, what are your final takeaway thoughts about the entire process for The Hobbit?
What'd they say?
There's something about theater, live theater, that is remarkable, especially in the fact of like it being movement based. There's something about that that is an absolute pleasure to see. I don't think you could get it on film.
Every show has its own, and every theater as well has its own vibe. Okay, and immediately I loved the vibe of this group, and again, largely the tone set by the director. I loved working with Kathy. I'll repeat what I said before. She has such a level of relaxation, but focused relaxation. She got a little tense toward the end. All directors do. It just goes with the territory because, so many moving parts again. But yeah, I really enjoyed this show way more than most that I've ever been in. So I'd love to work with them again.
There's something to be said for Asian theater forms, and it's interesting that I don't know if it's making its resurgence now or if it's making any type of impression in the theater world. But I think that there's something to be said about these really difficult forms that a lot of Americans have never seen or don't know a whole lot about, that there is a lot of information packed in those forms, and you can actually discern how to pick and choose and break it down in such ways that it becomes applicable to the audience and that they would actually get not only the story but maybe something else along the way. I think that's what's really intriguing to me about it.
I think that kind of the genius to the choices, the theatrical story choices that Green Tea has been making is that they are stories people are familiar with, and we're hitting them with styles that they are not familiar with. And so to allow an audience a certain amount of comfort as they embrace this strange new way of moving, I think is really, really smart. And I, personally am lobbying for the whole Lord of the Rings series. Let's do it. Come on! I'm not really, but that would be fun. Part of the strategy right now of doing the training aspect of it is to get a core group of actors trained enough in a style that is inspired by these forms that I've studied, but is something else, and that eventually, hopefully, will sort of become a green tea style. And once we feel, there it is, we've discovered this is what the green tea style is, then I want to break off and start doing work that's a little bit more experimental. For the time being, I think it's important to do things that, for the actors and the audiences, that is familiar, so there's something to grab onto. So, at least you're going to see The Hobbit, or you're going to see, in the case of Trojan Women or Rashomon, some material that's familiar, maybe handled in a way that you haven't seen before. And I would love it if we could evolve to the point where our audiences and our artists understand what the green tea style is now, and then we can start playing with new material.
To actually come up with your own style is... I can't even wrap my head around what all that entails. I mean, you're taking all of these influences, and if you really want to put a stamp on it, you can't just say, oh, we're incorporating this, this, and this. You've got to really meld it into something that's unique. That would be an astonishing process to be a part of. So awesome. That's just cool.
It's always an interesting thing that occurs when an audience connects with the story. Sometimes it doesn't happen in the opening, it happens sometime later. But it's hard as a performer to anticipate that because, well, nowadays it's hard to even see the audience to actually gauge the reaction. But it was kind of nice to have them up close and to see them get involved in the story almost from the get-go. But it's always a pleasure to hear somebody root for things that you would never hear root for, like Smog. Some girl rooted for Smog, and I was like, all right, we're gonna die, but hey, that's really cool.
I was afraid of tackling Thorin. I was afraid of the story. I joke I work as a temp, and I joke when I'm getting to know people that my great skill that I bring is that I speak enough geek to get developers and retail people to talk to each other. I can translate that. But that puts me in a position to know the difference between the people who go see the movies because they're the new big movie and they're the rabid fan. Right. And the rabid fans scared me. And they're my friends, and I love them, and I might be one of them. So I was afraid coming in, more so than with any other production, because of the subject matter. The incredible amount of joy to get in the room again with some of these same players that I've had the privilege of playing with on multiple productions, and to be once again under the leadership of Kathy on this process it's always a gift. It's kind of an unfair dream come true. I know I'm going to love this, and I just don't know who I'm going to love at the end of it that I don't know yet, because there's always somebody new and there's always something new. So for me, that was a great part at the beginning of the journey, to know I was walking into a very safe place. Every process I go through, every time I take on a new show, there's so many things that I learn. This one, we had probably 3/4 of the cast were new to Green Tea because we had such a large cast for this one. And anytime you bring new performers to a project, you're bringing fresh perspectives, and having to go back and explain things in a way that you don't have to with people that you've worked with before, and it forces you to realize where your strengths and weaknesses are as a teacher, as a director too. And I think this show perhaps challenged me in that regard more than other shows that I've done recently.
And I'm grateful for that. I think I came out of it as stronger director at the end of it. So.
I watched Lord of the Rings again this past weekend. It was on, and I saw Bilbo toward the very end, and I just felt an affinity for him that more so than I had even when I was a kid. And I read the story. That's what happens when you play a character. You kind of crawl inside them and look at the world through those eyes, which is my favorite thing about acting. It's like the best kind of travel. And Bilbo was something else. Something else. A very warm, very human, very flawed, very real person that went and did amazingly courageous things. And then when he was done, he wanted nothing more than to go back home to his quiet home. And his big concern was, did they sell off all my things? And it turns out that they did, but he doesn't know that yet by the end of the show. No, it was a very, very good experience.
And what of your business in the south?
Ere long, the forest will grow somewhat more wholesome. The north will be freed of that terror for many years, yet I wish he were banished from this world.
It would be well indeed. But I fear that will not come to pass in this age of the world, or for many other.
Hold tight to that, Mr. Baggins. I believe it is now for the long journey back home.
Good to see you home again.
But first, be my guest. Little sleep does great cure in the house of Elrond.
It will be good to see you home again. They must have taken me for dead by now. I wonder if they sold off all my things.
I like the fact that we did it in 3 hours, roughly about 3 hours, and it was jam-packed full of goodness. Yeah, 3 hours of The Hobbit as opposed to the 6 that's coming out. Holy crap, I think I prefer that. I mean, honestly, really, come on. Yeah, and then how many times will you see an Asian American Gandalf?
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.